Hey everyone, welcome to the 16.1 Christmas update. We've had a lot more time with the patch and a lot of new strategies have developed, so if you don't play them, someone else will. First off, just to start off, Bard is completely OP right now for like most comps. If you don't know what to do, pretty much play Bard. But in this video, we're going to cover all the comps you need to know, how to play them, and also how to approach the patch. So first things first, we have in the S tier, Piltover T-Hex is just by far the best comp right now. It's completely bonkers nuts. This one is with Reroll Caitlyn. You essentially reroll Caitlyn, get her 3-star, and then unlock your T-Hex super early and have that just carry most of the game. And then in the super late game, you run 2 T-Hexes. They're both zapping one side or the other. And it's just overall a very, very solid comp. If you ever do get a lot of Caitlyn's early, you have to play this comp. It's irresponsible not to. Next comp up we have is Yunara Flex. This is just a very consistent comp. If you ever have a Rage Blade in the early game and you're like, what should I play? I don't have like the craziest high roll. I don't have the craziest low roll. Well, Yunara Flex is going to be the comp to go for because you're rolling on 8, you're getting 4 cost units, and you're using that to hopefully stabilize your stage 4. And then if you do well, you could go play some legendaries and have fun with that. And if not, you're perfectly fine taking like a 4th or a 5th with the Yunara board. Next comp up we have is AD Fast 9 with Draven. This comp is really, really fun to play because if you ever get early Draven, he just farms you infinite gold and super, super good if you are able to get to level 9 without taking too much damage. Next one up we have is Ixtal Fast 9. So I actually don't recommend playing this comp because it is super, super, super difficult to play. I've seen so many people just fail picking quests. And I've seen this from both good players and bad players alike. It's like no one's immune to this unless you're like a top player in the world. So I'm going to leave Ixtal up here, but I'm just warning you all. You will win the game if you get the Brock cashout. 550 is the magic number. But you have to be very careful when picking your quest. And I know that sounds easy on paper, but there will come times where you literally can't complete any of the quests. And that's going to be where the trickiness is going to come from Ixtal Fast 9. Like anyone can play this if you get easy quests to complete. But again, in practice, it's much harder to actually do. So I don't recommend this comp unless you want to have like a lot of fun and go for the risk. But obviously, if you're playing perfect, first of all, you should be teaching me. But yeah, you can go Ixtal Fast 9 without any regrets. Next one up we have is Tryndamere Ashe reroll. Very solid reroll comp. Great for like getting second place, I found, second or third place. I'm not saying it's impossible to win with this comp. Like I've won with it. I've seen other people win with this. But compared to some like the super giga high cap boards, we have like the Exodia comps down here. Like, yeah, the Tryndamere Ashe reroll has a tough time beating them, but it beats pretty much everything else, and not everyone reaches the super giga boards. So if you're uncontested and if no one else is going for this and you have Ashe early, definitely go for the Tryndamere reroll. It's not as item dependent as it was once thought as before because people realize Tryndamere is the only unit that matters. Ashe, like, while she does still matter, you still want her 3-star. Like, she doesn't do that much compared to Tryndamere. Next one up we have is Yunara Flex. If you need to master one comp or you only want to play one comp, Yunara Flex is that comp for you. Because you could play Diana from like a lot of different spots. She prefers being played from lose streak, but you can pretty much just hard force this if you play Bard. And I did a little science experiment. Like I played a few games hard forcing Diana no matter what opener I got. And it honestly went pretty well. Like obviously I'm not winning every game when I do that, but I wanted to do the science experiment so that I could tell all of you. And yes, this comp does work. So if you just want to play only one comp, like Diana definitely is one of those things to go for. Because Bard makes everything so consistent. Void Kaisa is a very strong comp. There are 2 ways to play it. You could play either Fast 10 for the Baron win out, or you could play for the consistent top 4 with Kaisa. Demacia, if you get a Demacia opener, very solid comp to go for. Do not hard force this, only play this if it is given to you. Bilgewater Misfortune, this is kind of like the same thing as Ixtal Fast 9. It's very difficult to play Bilgewater Misfortune because you need to manipulate your shops like crazy. You need to be spending your Silver Serpents on the correct things, and it's just super, super high skill cap. So unless you're playing like 50 games per patch or whatever, or maybe even 100 games per patch, I recommend staying away from this unless you just really, really like the comp. I think these 2 notes on Bilgewater and Ixtal is kind of why I think my videos are more helpful than everyone else's tier list, because a lot of people, they just say like, oh yeah, Bilgewater and Ixtal are really, really good. And yeah, that is true, but only if you know how to play it. Whereas if you just like slam your head into the keyboard, you could play Diana Flex, no problem. Or you could play Void, no problem. Or Demacia, no problem. So even if a comp is good, there still are some caveats sometimes because some comps are much more forgiving than others. Last comp up we have is Bruiser Ryze. I find this comp so fun. It is also very difficult to play because you need to unlock so many different units early on. And the good news is that if you do unlock everything properly, you get this super capped Ryze board at the end of the game, and not many things can stop it, but you just don't go for this every single game. Next up in the B tier, we have like a couple of the rerolls like GP Draven, Yasuo reroll. A lot of people just like really love Yasuo reroll. I don't get the love for it. Like, yeah, it's a good build, and yeah, it's playable, but it's not the same as Tryndamere Ashe, you know? So that's kind of why these are in the B tiers. The rest are just like kind of a little bit lacking compared to everything else in the S and A tier. These are the comps you'll see in pretty much every single game if people get the chance to play them. So that's kind of how I have this set up in this way. But let's get on into how to play each and every single one of these comps. Starting off with the first one, we have Piltover T-Hex. This one's going to be a 1-cost reroll, focus around 6 Piltover, and then multiple T-Hexes as your late game carries. What you want to do is unlock your first T-Hex, build IE and Guardbreaker. Those are the 2 best items on T-Hex. Third item, Deathblade, pretty good. But honestly, third item, just build anything. And then once you stabilize with that first T-Hex, you start building a second T-Hex with a bunch of items. But you can use Lucian and Senna as your item holders. So you could build IE Lucian, you could build Last Whisper, you could build anything else T-Hex can use. And then just once you get the next copy of T-Hex, swap it over onto the T-Hex. Then when you 2-star your T-Hex, the items pop off, you put them back on Lucian and Senna, and then when you get a new copy, remove them and put them back onto the new T-Hex. So that's kind of what the goal of this comp is. Like, you just roll for Caitlyn early and you play with Bard. So let's cover that right now. So the conditions of this comp is to have a bunch of Caitlyn copies early. This can be manufactured as well. It doesn't have to be like you start the game with like 10 Caitlyns or whatever. We'll get into that in just a bit. Econ augments help, Bard helps a lot, and then like Infinity Edge is absolutely mandatory in this build. And then obviously you need to take care of the unlocks. So the unlocks we need to take care of are Orianna, Bard, and T-Hex. Bard is the most important one. So essentially you need to roll 4 times before stage 2-4. And this is really nice to do if you have one of those econ augments on stage 2-1. This could be something like Trade Sector, that one's really nice. But anything that gives you gold or rerolls is just absolutely fantastic for unlocking Bards. So essentially, whenever you have one of those reroll augments, you don't have to start the game with a lot of Caitlyn's if you roll a bunch instead to look for Bard, and you find a bunch of Caitlyn's as well. So that's like the way you could kind of go into this comp, even if you don't start with a lot of Caitlyn's. And essentially, the way Bard works is whenever you lose a fight, you get some rerolls. So he pays for himself really, really quickly, especially if you're on a lose streak. This works doubly well for this comp because you're going for 1-cost units. Most comps that use Bard, they roll on like level 7 or level 8 or sometimes even level 9. And in those cases, you don't use your rerolls until much later in the game. But the good news with Caitlyn is that you could use your rerolls early because she's a 1-cost unit, so you get the payback from Bard really, really quickly, which helps you stabilize your board that much easier. But essentially what you want to do is just do a 1-cost reroll, get Caitlyn 3-star, Bard's obviously helping you along the way, and then you just play all the Piltover units. There's really nothing too complicated about that. You just need to get to 9-star levels of Piltover. So how do we do that? With 3-star Caitlyn, that's 3. With 2-star Vi, that's 5. With 2-star Orianna, that's 7. And then with 2-star Loris, that's 9. So you don't even need Seraphine to make this work, but obviously you do want to find Seraphine eventually so that you could get to 6 Piltover. So the question you have to ask yourself at the beginning of the game when you do want to go for T-Hex is ask yourself, is it going to be easier to find 1 copy of Seraphine, or is it going to be easier to find 3-star Caitlyn? That's what you're going to have to ask yourself, because both ways can get to 9-star levels for T-Hex, but with Caitlyn 3-star, the added benefit is that 3-star units give T-Hex a bigger buff when he eats them, so the late game cap is a bit higher with the Caitlyn 3. That's pretty much how you unlock T-Hex. Orianna, you just need to field 3 Piltover units, so that one's pretty easy, but let's go over the game plan now. You can find the full game plan at bunnymuffins.lol/meta. I'm going to cover everything for this Piltover comp because this is one that I just added. And then for the other comps that we already went over before, we're just going to summarize to kind of refresh your memory. But in stages 1 and 2, you just want to hold Piltover units. Like Caitlyn's really the only one that matters. And then you get Bard, as we talked about before. Then on stage 3, you want to naturally level to level 5 on stage 3 too, and then you want to roll at level 5 so that you can get both Caitlyn's and Loris. Sometimes you can even get Seraphines as well. But pretty much you slow roll until you can get Caitlyn 3, then level up, and then find Loris, ideally 2-star, get Orianna, and then sometimes if you get lucky, you even see a copy of Seraphine, and then you get T-Hex unlocks really early. I have seen T-Hex being unlocked in early stage 3. That's obviously a little lucky. But essentially by stage 4, you probably should have T-Hex in. If not, you're in quite a bit of trouble. Then after that, you want to get to level 9 as quickly as possible, and then field 2 T-Hexes as we talked about before. So now that we covered the game plan, let's go over the module priorities. So on 2, Electric Overload's pretty good, Blast Shield's pretty good. Honestly, a lot of them are takeable, but these are the ones I prefer right now. Magnetic Coil and Micro Rockets are both pretty good at 4, and then at 6, if you're winning and you're in no danger of dying, Mining Drill is the best one because you just get like 6 gold every single round. And that allows you to get to level 10, get like 2 2-star T-Hexes, and you pretty much just have a lot of freedom to do whatever you want. Then, once you do get all the legendary 2-stars, you drop down to 4 Piltover, and then you don't play Mining Drill at all. However, if you need help right away and you need to fight, getting the module's Superior Lifeform or Upgrade are really, really useful to help you stabilize. Last but not least, make sure you have Infinity Edge or at least Jeweled Lotus, because T-Hex pretty much sucks without it. You need his spell to crit no matter what, and Infinity Edge is the most consistent way to do that. So that's pretty much all you need to know about this comp. Tank items go on Braum or Loris, depending on who you have 2-star, and then eventually later on in the game, you can drop down to 4 Piltover. What you want to do is just drop Seraphine, drop Vi, and then play whatever legendary 2-stars you get. This could be something like Shyvana, Fiddlesticks, Ornn, Kindred, the usual suspects that we have at level 9. Any of those 2-star, play them over the other 2 Piltovers and drop down to 4 if you have Mining Drill. Next comp up we have is going to be the Yunara Flex build. If you ever build Rageblade and you're a Rageblade lover, you absolutely need to learn this comp. I know a lot of people build Rageblade because they're like, oh, let me play Ashe, let me play Draven. Because they're like, oh, let me play Ashe Tryndamere, let me play Draven. But the tricky part about those 2 comps is that for the Tryndamere comp, you need to make sure you're uncontested. So if someone contests you, what do? You might say, oh, I can go Draven, and that's the fast 9 board, but you don't always get a game state where you are able to fast 9. So what's the most consistent option? It's going to be Yunara Flex. Yunara uses Rageblade really, really well. She uses Kraken Slayer really, really well. A lot of the marksmen use these kind of items, and she also has the added benefit of using Infinity Edge because a lot of people build Infinity Edge early on in the game. So there's a lot of ways to get into Yunara, and there's both the Freljord build with 3 Freljord and then the more Ionia focused build. Both builds are great. If you like your Ionia buff, definitely go into the Ionia heavy builds, or if you have AP items for set, that's another reason to go for it. I usually find myself playing this board a little more often, but the best way to play this is to get a good Ionia opener, maybe win streak a little bit. Whenever you are fast aiding, win streaking is honestly one of the better ways to do it if you can help it. So it doesn't have to be from an Ionia opener. It could be from literally anything. As long as you have the items for it, you could always pivot into this comp because the unlocks for this comp aren't that hard. It's just Set and Volibear. Volibear, you just need a Warmogs plus a 2-star 4-cost tank. That plus any of the other random tank items that give a little bit of health normally make them tanky enough to unlock Volibear. And then Set, you just need to make sure only 1 unit's in the front row. So all you have to do is just bring everyone back a bit, and then you are able to unlock it. Obviously it's not going to be Set, but you could put Ornn or whoever up there. And obviously you can do this on PvE rounds. You don't have to do it on player versus player rounds, and that's going to be the best time to kind of unlock Set, because then you don't sacrifice your positioning for no reason. But apart from that, you want to focus items on whoever you have upgraded. And honestly, one of the beginner mistakes I see a lot of people make, because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different units that can hold items in this comp, is that they spread their items too thin. So obviously you want 3 Yunara items, no one's debating that, right? So you build 3 Yunara items, Kraken, i.e. Rageblade. But then what do you do with all the other items? Well, if you have item augments, it's easier to spread the love. But let's say you have 1 tank item, 1 item for Volibear, 1 item for Set. Is that ideal? No, that's not, because in TFT you want to concentrate your items all on 1 person. So if you ever build 1 item that fits 1 guy, you have to make sure the rest of the items you build for that game fit that person as well. Only after you finish 3 items on that second character can you move on to the third one. So let's say you build 3 Yunara items, 3 Braum items. You're not going to build a Sterix for Volibear and then a Jeweled Gauntlet for Set. You're going to build a Sterix for Volibear and then whatever item you have you're just gonna have to make it work on Volibear. Like, let's say you had a rod, and then you're using your item anvil that you get at the start of stage 5. You're not gonna go Jeweled Gauntlet because you're like, oh, I have a rod, let me build a set item. You're gonna build something like a Gunblade. Might not be Volibear's best item, but it's something usable on him, and you want to focus all your items onto him. So you'd have Sterix plus Hextech Gunblade, and then on the Carousel round, you get a third item for your Volibear. Again, you have to make sure you do not spread the items out, even if I list a lot of item holders, because you need to concentrate items in TFT. But apart from that, like, this comp isn't the hardest to play. It's like medium difficulty, I would say. So I definitely do recommend playing this comp. If you want a one-trick a comp, this is in the one-trickable territory. Like, if you get contested, it's not too bad. And there honestly are a lot of different outs that you can use. Because again, you have so many different carries to choose from. Like, you don't even have to use Yunara as your primary carry. Like, if Yunara is so contested, you could always skip her and then go straight into Kindred. Kindred uses the same exact items as Yunara, Rageblade and Kraken. The Infinity Edge, not that great on Kindred, but you know, it is what it is. But then you could also focus items on other people, such as Volibear or Set. Like, both of these two units can carry in their own right, and definitely stabilize you hard if you built items for them. So this comp is pretty fun. Oh, by the way, for Ionia paths, so I played this from every single different Ionia, and I haven't noticed that much of a power difference, I'll be honest with you. But honestly, the way I prioritize it right now is the gold one, the XP one, the extra attack, the stacking one, then the 3-star one. But honestly, even with the 3-star one, I still do well on this because I only go for this comp if I have the right items for it and the right units for it. So even if it's a little weaker than it normally would be, if I got a 3rd place instead of a 2nd place because I have the 3-star one, like, so be it, you know? Ideally, you only go for this if you actually have the spot for it, which is generally Rageblade start into the ability to fast 8, which could be either a win streak start or an econ augment start that allows you to fast 8. Next build up we have is going to be the AD fast 9 comp. This is one of my favorite comps to play. Like, these two comps, they go hand in hand because they both build the same items, because you both play around Rageblade Kraken. So in the early game, if you ever get an early Draven, you could just play it right away and play 2 Quick Striker plus random tanks in front and 3 Noxus, and you'll be able to win a lot of games like that. Draven will farm you infinite gold if he just has a Rageblade plus any other damage items. Like, obviously I prefer Kraken, but it could be any other 2 damage items. And then whatever nonsense I have in the front line generally buys him enough time to just stack up his Rageblade, get a bunch of kills, and then get you a lot of bonus gold. So that's why it's really easy to fast 9 with this comp, because you just farm like 3 gold every 1 to 2 turns, depending if you're winning or losing. So you sometimes don't even need like an econ augment to make this possible. Like, obviously I prefer having an econ augment whenever I am doing a fast 9 because like it's pretty expensive to get up there. But with Draven, he farms you enough gold. Like, as long as you're win streaking, like, you eventually will get there, and you can honestly use so many different legendaries, and you also honestly play a lot of 4 cost, so even rolling on level 8 isn't that bad. Like, I played this comp and I played it 3 ways. I've rolled on 7, I've rolled on 8, I've rolled on 9. All 3 versions have their merits. It just depends on what your game state is. For example, if you're on a pair of Dravens and it's stage 3-5, you absolutely need to roll down and hit Draven 2-star if you have items for him. I don't care how deep you have to go. If you're pair of Dravens, like, you have to go until you hit, because he will pay himself back. Even if you spend like 30 gold on the roll down just for 1 unit, I'd say it's worth it. And obviously you're not looking for just that unit, right? You still need to get other upgrades. You could hit 1-star copies of the 4 cost units, like Tarik's pretty useful. You're generally playing some random Noxus units in the early game. That's going to be mainly Darius and Sion. So if you don't have them 2-star yet, you could possibly hit them during that 30 to 40 gold roll down, plus whatever units you're complementing them with. So if you're playing Darius, you obviously want defenders in. You could get Sejuani in there. Sejuani works out well because you could play Ashe. Ashe is a quick striker, and then you could play 3 Freljord sometimes. If you're looking for a bruiser, it could be something like Illaoi. You could also play Bilgewater with this for even more econ. It could be Mundo. Mundo's just solid tank in general. But honestly, any bruiser will do, right? But then once you hit that Draven 2-star, you just start farming infinite gold, and then the rest is kind of history. The best part about this comp is that there aren't any unlockables that you need, so you can just play this like straight up. But I do recommend playing around Skarner a little bit. You just need to gargle a stone plate. That makes it easy to get a nice little tank before you reach the later levels. He's not mandatory by any means, so if you have the stone plate, great. If not, like, don't grief your item build just to build the stone plate to unlock Skarner. And another unlock that is possible is going to be Sylas. If you just happen to get a Jarvan 2-star early on in the game and sold him, like Sylas is a super high-end late game cap for this comp. Not mandatory by any means, you can win without Sylas. Just replace him with any 2-star legendary. Obviously, it's not going to be as good, but that's how much gold this build kind of prints. It allows you to go fast 9 and also have enough gold to find Garen and Lux 2-star and sell them. But this comp is really fun to play. Only play it with an early Draven with a slammable item, and just play around whatever units you have in the early game. Like again, it's mainly going to be for the Noxus units, generally Sion, and you could play Briar at the start until you get Darius. And then you just play Defenders or Bruisers, depending on who you have items on. If you have 2-star Darius, play some Defenders. It could be something like Vi, Nico, the Jarvan that you want to sell later, or like Sejuani. Play some Quick Strikers. It could be Ashe, Twisted Fate. Those are usually my go-to options. And then for Bruisers, you could pretty much just choose any of them, and yeah, it'll work. Like Shen's good if you want to play around like Yunara possibly. Sometimes I keep Shen because I want to flex it with some of the Yunara builds. But honestly, another good unit to pair with this comp is going to be Leona or Aphelios. Both of the Targon units are pretty nice because Leona is tanky. Tanks buy you time to stack up Rageblade, and then Aphelios is good because he gives Sunder for your team, which allows Draven to deal even more damage. So you have a lot of options in this early game. There aren't any exact units that you have to play in the early game apart from Draven. The rest are pretty flexible. You just generally play 3 Noxus and then 2 Quick Striker, and then whatever tank traits you can get your hands on. There's also a nice little Freljord version here because you don't actually have to keep Draven for the whole game. Next build up we have is going to be Brock Fast 9. This is just quest simulator, so you get Ixtal early on, 2-3 by the latest. There are some exceptions. If you are 100 health and it's stage 3, you can start Ixtal questing in stage 3. But again, you have to be 100 health, so that's like a very rare instance. But I'm telling you, and I cannot stress this enough, do everything in your power to get quests. I might have to make a complete separate Ixtal guide because I watch a lot of people play. They click quests that they can't complete, and it's like, what are you doing? They're too afraid to just get one of the lower payouts and try again in the future. Like one of the biggest bait quests is the alternating win and lose. That one is too hard to complete. Pretty much never click that one ever unless you are 1000% confident for some reason that you are able to do it. Like maybe you have know your enemy, so you have full knowledge of who you're going to face and you have the ability to beat everyone. So you can play your strongest board and beat everyone. Next turn, bench everyone, lose on purpose. Same thing and do the alternate. Like it's so rare of an instance that you should really only pick that one if you are guaranteed to go 8th otherwise, because at least it gives you a chance for a win out. But there are a lot of bait quests. Like another one is getting a certain armor amount on one of your Ixtal units during combat. Don't pick that one if you have no armor items. You know, like I don't know why I need to be saying this, but please do not pray that you'll get something to complete your quest. Like only take the quest that you actually can complete. If you have 0 gold, don't take the one that says buy 48 XP or whatever number it was. That is the way to play Ixtal. And if you get 3 quests that you can't complete, unlucky, cash out, try to get 6th or 7th place. Like that would be my recommendation to like 99% of people. Just promise me that you'll only click quests that you are actually able to complete. So there are some exceptions to this rule. Like obviously there's some quests that say like field a 2-star Milio, and if you have a lot of rerolls because you played Bard early game and you haven't used them yet and you only have 1-star Milio, if the other 2 quests are not able to be completed, then yeah, take the Milio one and then roll for Milio, and if you miss, you miss. If you hit, then great, you get to complete the quest. So there are some exceptions to my like only take quests that you can for sure complete rule, but it often comes from a place of like you have no better option. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, which is the most important part, let's get on into the build. The only thing you need to do with the build is just build Infinity Edge, Hand of Justice, Sterak's Brock. I think Sterak's is his best item. Infinity Edge is just really good for damage, but honestly, any damage items work well on Brock. He's so tanky with Sterak's that you don't really need anything else on him apart from pure damage. And then the rest of the comp can be whatever. I have 2 versions of this build out right now. I have the Invoker version and the AD version. Honestly, both versions work fine. It just really depends what items you have beyond whatever Brock has. So you just build Brock items, put them on like Kiana early game or any Slayer unit. And then once you get Brock, obviously sell them, put the items onto Brock, and then see what else you have. If you have AP and mana items, go for the Zillion Lissandra type of carry build. If you have a lot of attack damage items, go for like Lucian and Senna and Kindred. But very fun comp to play. I know I said a lot of negative things about this, but if you want to have fun, this is a fun comp to play. 550 cash out is the goal here. It's just the most consistent cash out. But obviously you can go for more if you are feeling up for it and if you have the health total to do so. For augments, always take the health giving augments. What's it called? Like Tiny Titans and Hard Bargain give health. There might be some other ones that give health. I forget what their names are. But all those are really, really good because it allows you to have more time to complete all the quests. Next build up we have is going to be the A tiers. Tryndamere Ashe reroll is like a classic reroll comp, 2-cost reroll. If you ever get Ashe early with a bow, or QSS components, scout around really quickly, and then pick the augment that helps you force this the hardest. I'm gonna cover a game of this build in my unranked to diamond video that's coming out shortly, where I literally just have no ashes, no items, and then I just hard force it once I see Pandora's items, because I was just like, let me see if this works if you're uncontested. If you have Pandora's items, does this comp work? Turns out it does. So Pandora's items plus reroll augment makes it so that you guaranteed hit 3-star and guarantee perfect items, which is pretty much the only thing this comp needs, because literally the only unit that matters in this comp is Tryndamere. I mean, Ashe matters a little bit, Sejuani and Nico matter a little bit too, but for the most part, it's really just a Tryndamere comp. That's why you need Quicksilver on him for sure, because if he ever gets CC'd, you just lose. But Rageblade, Bloodthirster, QSS are going to be the key items. If you ever get a Radiant item, he becomes even better. If you ever get Artifact items, he becomes even better. Darken Scythe is extremely good on Tryndamere. You just use that to replace Bloodthirster. If you ever get an Ornn item and you're unsure of what item to replace on Tryndamere, just read what it does, and then read what the core items do, and then replace the one that has a similar function. So if you have like Flicker Blades, like that's obviously going to replace Rageblade. If you get Death's Defiance, that's obviously going to replace Bloodthirster. The Darken items obviously replace Bloodthirster as well, so it kind of works in that way. But honestly, the only mandatory required item on Tryndamere is Quicksilver, and obviously having copies of Ashe early makes it a lot easier to play, but it's not mandatory. You can play Bard with this. I don't really like playing Bard with this, but I have seen other people play Bard whenever they do go Ashe Tryndamere. The reason why I don't like Bard, and Bard usually does work well in reroll comps because he gives you, well, free rerolls, is because I find that I just win a lot of rounds with Tryndamere, and playing Bard doesn't really help me win the fight. I'd rather just play units that provide synergies to my team and traits to my team that just help me win streak and have higher life total throughout most of the game. So again, I mentioned this in the summary, this comp doesn't win a lot. This comp doesn't get first place a lot. It gets second and third really, really well. And part of the reason that is because even with 1-star Tryndamere, you win a lot of rounds in stage 2. With a 2-star Tryndamere, you win pretty much every round in stage 3, and then with 3-star Tryndamere, you pretty much win every round in stage 4. So you just have like such a big life advantage over everyone else, and if you just chop that by like 20 because you're playing Bard, it's not worth it even though you get more rerolls for the team comp. Again, I know people play this with Bard, but I don't really like it that much because I'd rather just win my rounds in the early game. Like obviously if you know you're gonna lose, then you can go Bard, but the only reason why you'd be losing a lot of rounds in the early game is if you don't have items for Tryndamere to slam. And if you don't have items on Tryndamere to slam, I would ask you the question, why are you going this comp in the first place? So that's kind of where I'm at with Bard in this comp. Like, yeah, there are times for it, but I'd say in general, like just play the Freljords, play Slayer, play Quick Striker. And if you're playing all of those, you don't have that much room to fit Bard into your team comp in the early game, but it is still possible. I'd just rather have more life than have more rerolls. If I change my opinion on this, I will update it on the website, bunnymuffins.lol/meta. I'll either talk about it in here or I'll add it to the conditions section. But yeah, in general, like Bard is really good for rerolls, but I'd say this is one of the exceptions to that. I think that really is all there is to cover about this comp. Utility items put them on Sejuani or Ashe. Like Ashe could use like Last Whisper, even Shroud could be on Sejuani, either or, just make sure you have one of them. Sunfire Cape I prefer over Red Buff because Ashe isn't a really good spreader of Red Buff, so I really do prefer the Sunfire Cape. Worst case scenario, you could always like Morello as Swain if you want to get a little goofy, but Sunfire Cape probably going to be the best option there. Next build up we have is going to be the Yunara Flex build. One of my favorite builds. I've been saying that for like a lot of different comps now. Honestly, there's a lot of comps I like. Diana, I'd say, is one of those comps that you could just like see your augment on stage 2 and then just know you're going to hard force it. So you might be asking, what are those augments? Well, The Azir augment is pretty nice for this because you do end up playing Azir, so you definitely can go into that from here. But the best ones are going to be all the lose streak ones. So calculated loss is really, really good. Anything that gives you a lot of econ, like, it's going to be great because you are lose streaking. But calculated loss is obviously the best one. Epoch is really good because it gives you Bard really, really early and for free. And then lastly, like, duplicators are nice, like the lesser duplicators, because they allow you to get Leona 2-star for free, in which case you are able to get to Diana really easily. So the only thing you need for this comp is best in slot items for Diana. That's going to be Rageblade, Titans, and Bloodthirster. None of the other items matter, so just slam whatever you have if they aren't one of these components. That's going to be Bow, Rod, Chain, and Negatron, and Sword. Every other item that's not one of those, just build whatever you can. But with that in mind, the best way to play this comp is from a lose streak. That's why, like, calculated loss is so good. You pretty much, all you have to do is unlock Bard, roll 4 times on stage 2-3, buy Bard, play him, keep lose streaking, and get a lot of rerolls. Get Bow off of every carousel because you're low life, you pretty much always get Bow. Build the items you see here. On stage 3-5, level up to level 7 and roll down. You don't even have to spend that much gold to roll with because you got so many free rolls from Bard, and if you had like Epoch or calculated loss, you get even more. Hit Leona 2-star, put 3 items on her, unlock Diana, sell Leona, play Diana, move all the items onto Diana, and then the rest of your board doesn't matter. You win that round on stage 3-6. Level up to level 8 on 4-1 or 4-2, depending on how strong you are and how much gold you have. Roll down for Diana 2-star. If you get a 1-star copy of Azir, great. If not, no worries. You still win every single round there. You could also scale for late game by playing a random Ornn to get an artifact item. Get some random 2-star tanks during that roll down. It could be either the Defender package with Vi and Nico. It could be something a bit more beefy, such as Braum, Ornn, and Loris. If you hit random 1-star legendary units, you could play those as well. And yeah, that's just going to be your board for a big part of the game, and you will win a lot of these rounds because Diana just 1v9s. On stage 4, you definitely want to try to get a combat augment. Celestial Blessing, I think, is the best one for her because it just gives her the extra shielding from lifesteal and also gives her more lifesteal too. And she essentially just gets a super shield. And then in the late game, you just play more and more Shurima units. Renekton, you pretty much get all the time because you just win so many rounds, so he automatically unlocks because you win a lot. Nasus, I don't really get him that often. Like, I wish I could, but you just don't lose that much with this comp, so you can't really get Nasus. And then Xerath, sometimes you can get if you can execute a win-lose perfectly. And obviously, he is the best late game for this comp, but he's just very hard to unlock because, again, you get the Renekton in, you win a lot of rounds in a row, and then you eventually get outscaled by other comps, and then you can't have enough time to build up some of the other Shurimas. Like, sometimes it is possible, like I have had the other Shurimas, obviously, before, but they are much more difficult to get. I usually just have Renekton, and I either end the game before people get to their super late game, or I get like a 3rd place because people did reach their late game. Obviously, all the 2-cost units here that you see, they can be replaced by legendaries like Fiddlesticks, Lucian, Kindred. Those are all going to be good things to replace these 2 with, but it's kind of hard to get a lot of 2-star legendaries, you know? Like, if I could do that every game, I would. But this is a nice little budget board that should carry you all the way through stage 5. So this is what I put into my team planner, and then if I get legendary units, I buy them and play them. But if I don't, then I'm more than happy playing the board you see here. These 2 can also be replaced, as I said before, by Braum and Loris. And also Taric and Skarner can be a replacement for these 2 if you do have Skarner unlocked. But yeah, hard force this every game. If you are like playing for a lose streak, you just play Bard, open fort. Not like an actual open fort, but like a half open fort, because you obviously have to play Bard, right? Roll for Leona, get her, get Diana, go level 8, roll for Diana, get Diana 2-star, level up to level 9, play all the legendaries, and then have a good day after that. Next build up we have is the Void Kaisa build. This build's really fun. Only play this if you get Void Opener. That's just having at least 1 2-star Void and 2 Void trait activated on stage 2-1. The reason why you need that is because to unlock Rift Herald, you need to play Void for 8-player combats, and the earlier you do that, the earlier you get Rift Herald, and then the earlier you get Rift Herald, the easier it is to win the game by stabilizing a lot. So yeah, only play this if you get a 2-star Void unit on stage 2-1 with 2 Void active. So that's generally going to be Kog'Maw 2-star with like a Cho'Gath or something like that. Those are the times where I look to play this comp, and if I have a Rod. Rod is important because you need Rageblade and Jeweled Gauntlet on Kaisa, absolutely mandatory. If you get too many Rods, you could build something like a Hextech Gunblade. And then the early game is really, really easy. You just play whatever traits synergize with Cho'Gath and Kog'Maw. That's going to be Juggernaut and Sniper or Longshot. So oftentimes I'm playing stuff like Teemo, I'm playing Briar, I'm playing Blitzcrank, like anything that synergizes with those 2 units. And then as I level up, I add in more Void units. So at level 6, you want like 4 Void. That's going to be Kog'Maw, Rek'Sai, Cho'Gath, and Malzahar. If you don't have Malzahar yet, Rift Herald should be unlocked pretty soon by that time. And then you just play Rift Herald. I don't think Kog'Maw is the best item holder for Kai'Sa's items. So generally I put them on Teemo or whoever I have as an AP holder. It could be something like Ahri as well, because Kog'Maw is also an Arcanist, so it's nice to run something like that if you have it. But just make sure you do eventually need 3 items on a Longshot to unlock Kaisa. The way to do that is to be level 8 and have 3 items on a Longshot unit. If you use Kog'Maw, it happens pretty easily, but if not, like, just remove the items, put them on him. It could be during the PvE round. Like, one popular strategy people do is go to level 8 on stage 3-7. That's the stage 3 PvE round. And they can put 3 items on Kog'Maw and not have him in a PvP fight. And then you unlock Kaisa, buy her, item remove off Kog'Maw, put them all on Kaisa, and have a good day after that. An even better way to do that is to have a random long shot in your shop, buy them, play them, and then sell them after you unlock Kaisa. That way you don't have to waste a remover onto your Kog'Maw. So one important thing to note about this comp is that you need to either play for Kaisa or play for Baron. You need to decide that pretty early because it's hard to play for both. So the reason why is because if you're playing for Baron, you need to get to level 10, and you need to have items for Baron immediately once you get there. So that's kind of hard to do because obviously getting level 10 in any game is hard to do, but you also need to have specific items set up for him. And if you build Baron items and Kaisa items and tank items, you end up not having enough items for all 3 of them. That's why it's important to identify what you're trying to do at the beginning of the game. Right now, it's much more consistent to go for Kaisa, get a lot of top 4s, rather than trying to go for Baron to win out. Obviously, winning out is more fun and it's a lot rare. So like, if you do get the chance to play for Baron, great. What are those things? So one of them is an augment literally called Win Out. It's when you reach level 9, go to level 10 immediately. That's the best augment for the Baron comp. If you ever see that, take it and just hard force Baron, build Baron items, and you're good to go. Other things that are good for that is stuff like forward thinking. Any econ augments, like double econ augment, is possible to get there. Like, I would even go so far to say that triple econ is needed to get to level 10 because it just really is that expensive if you're trying to get there without dying beforehand. So you can obviously still try to stabilize around Kaisa, but if you're going for Baron, Bel'Veth is a much better item holder because Bel'Veth is a melee carry and Baron's also a melee carry. So you want to play around stuff like Slayers, and unfortunately, like, Bel'Veth just isn't as strong as Kaisa in terms of stabilizing. So it's a bit tricky to get there, but once you do, it's great. You get a lot of wins with Baron. It's pretty hard to lose with Baron. Like, I don't see it happen that often, both when I play it and when I face it. But if you don't have enough gold to do that, it's perfectly fine to just go for Kaisa, go for Rageblade, Jeweled Gauntlet, and get top 4 that way. Like, you just play 6 Void and then play random +1 units that you see during your game. So stuff like Taric, stuff like any of the legendaries. You're not going to win any games, but you will top 4 with it pretty easily. And if you do have infinite time, maybe you do get to level 10 and play Baron anyways. But yeah, very solid comp. You just need to decide which direction you want to go into. Next build up we have is 7 Demacia. I used to love this comp. Like, last week I loved this comp. I've kind of fallen out of love with it because too many people are playing it now. So whenever I want to go for it, I scout around and I see like, oh, there's like so many other Demacia players. Well, not so many. There's like one other Demacia player, but that's enough for me to be like, no, I don't want to play this because the comp is good, but it's not that good. And especially when you need to star up all of your champions to unlock Galio, that's another like strong reason not to go for it when it is contested, because there are only so many Demacia units and you need to star them up in order to get Galio. And if you can't, you just literally go 8th. So I'd rather do that with a different comp, because if you hit everything in Demacia, you're by no means guaranteed to win. Like, if you get Baron, you're pretty much guaranteed to win. At worst, you get 2nd, right? But with Demacia, like, you get Galio, like, great. You're still going to get not first, you know? So the risk isn't worth the reward if you are contested on this comp. So just make sure you're the only one going for this when that happens. Some of the signs to go for the 7 Demacia comp is to get an early Vayne drop with a bow. If you have a Kraken slammable early, that's even better. If you have Gunblade components, that's even better. Honestly, one of the coolest augments to play with this comp is the Crown of Demacia comp, or is the Crown of Demacia augment. That's the one where if the holder dies, you just lose the fight instantly. But Vayne is the best holder of that item because it's pretty much like a Kraken Slayer. It gives her a bunch of attack damage that scales up throughout the fight, and she pretty much never dies until the very end anyways because she just dashes around all the time. So as long as you don't get Diana'd, I've heard a lot of different ways that people have said that I am not allowed to say, but you're free to leave your favorite alternative to saying getting Diana'd down in the comments below. Vayne pretty much lives the whole fight, so she's just a really, really good user for Crown of Demacia. You know what? Let's check out the data explorer on teamfight.lol. Let me drop Vayne in and see how that item kind of does on her. So we go to items and then type in Crown of Demacia. You know, 3.86 isn't bad, right? Like down from 4.34. Like she uses it really, really well. I personally love it a lot. It's literally just Kraken Slayer that's even better. And it's kind of thematic, right? Like it's literally called Crown of Demacia, and lo and behold, it works well in the Demacia comp. Other things to note about this comp is that Hextech Gunblades are very important. I explained this last week. You essentially just have a lot of resistances when you play Demacia. That's what the trait gives when you rally, when your team loses a bunch of health. And Hextech Gunblade just heals your units, right? And when you have a lot of resistances, each point of HP matters a lot more. So that's why Hextech Gunblade is really, really good in this comp. It also allows your team to rally multiple times because it constantly heals your team back up. There's a couple of different versions of this build. You always want the 7 Demacia out there, obviously, but in terms of like the flex units, it always changes a bit. So with 7 Demacia in, Swain makes a lot of sense because he gives you Juggernaut with Poppy, Arcanist with Lux, and he's also just a solid unit on his own. So you pretty much always play Swain, but for the rest of the units, it could be a lot of different legendaries. So Ziggs is good because you need long shot for Vayne. Sometimes people play Kaisa. Kaisa is really good for long shot if you don't have Ziggs. But another thing people do is sometimes they take out Xin Zhao and play Sona. Sona is good if you get Zilean because Zilean can carry in his own right. And sometimes in the early parts of the game, maybe early stage 4, if you are winning a lot, you can keep Xin Zhao in there and instead play an Ornn and farm an artifact item with the Xin Zhao to get Warden, and then once you farm the artifact item, take Ornn out and then play one of the other legendaries. So lots of different things you could do with the Demacia board. It just depends on what your game state is kind of like. Next build up we have is Bilgewater Misfortune. Very, very, very difficult comp again because there's so many different shop manipulations that you kind of do. You have to decide how long you're playing 7 Bilgewater for. You have to decide if you're even playing 7 Bilgewater. Some people just play 5. You have to know what items to take. There's a lot of things you kind of need to do. You also need to get an opener for it. So an opener is getting Twisted Fate on stage 1-4, playing him and putting 2 items on him really quickly so that you get Graves. That way you get Bilgewater right at the start of the game and start farming 15 Silver Serpents every single round. This is absolutely mandatory to do because I've had games where I was too slow to build the items on Twisted Fate because I'm an old man, you know? And then I was delayed getting to 5 Bilgewater for 1 turn. And then because I was delayed getting to 5 Bilgewater for 1 turn, I was delayed on my Tahm Kench for 1 turn, and then I died. So you absolutely need to play this comp like near perfection to make it work. I'm not saying it's impossible to without it, but it's one of the higher skill cap comps in the game right now because again, so many decisions to make with your shop, whether you buy stuff when you have 3 Bilgewater in, 5 Bilgewater, or 7 Bilgewater in, when to reroll, when not to reroll, when to spend, when not to spend, when to roll and stabilize. Like there's so many different decisions you have to make when playing this comp that honestly, like you can't even explain it in like a fully dedicated Bilgewater video. You just have to play the comp like 20 times in a row and then you'll get to know how to play this. But the main goal of the comp is to just get some Bilgewater items for Tahm Kench and Misfortune, get to level 9, play a bunch of legendaries, and just have Tahm Kench be an unstoppable tank and damage carry in the super late game because you fed him a lot. So that's pretty much the goal. Whatever helps you get there is what you're going to have to do. So yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. In the early game, slam a lot of items early. I like building Misfortune items because once you get a lot of Bilgewater items for her. They transfer over very easily to Lucian, and you want to play Lucian because he's a gunslinger and Misfortune's a gunslinger, and Lucian already is very fine in his own right. Nautilus 3-star is optional. You don't have to do it, but if it does present itself, like, go for it. And then the rest of the legendary units, like, who really cares? Just play them. If they're 2-star, great. If not, no worries. And then focus all your other items onto Tahm Kench. What are Tahm Kench's best builds? Well, we could go to the Explorer tool, type in Tahm Kench, go to items, and then we see a lot of different stuff. Pile of Citrus has been one of my favorites. If you do get this item, definitely go for it. Pretty much all the tank Bilgewater items are good. Just buy them and put them on Tahm Kench. Apart from that, like, Protector's Vow is nice to get his cast off early. This is good if you have like a skinny Tahm Kench. Protector's Vow is really good because 1, it makes him pretty beefy, and 2, it gets him to cast early and provide a lot of utility for your team. I'd say in the super late game, having an item like Bloodthirster is a bit more useful. And then after that, having like a Spare Visage or maybe a resistance item is even better. But in the early game, Protector's Vow, I think, is really, really good. In the late game, I think it falls off a little bit, but oftentimes, like, you don't make it to that point. But, like, if you have, like, a super stacked Tahm Kench, like, you're feeding him, like, 3-star legendary meals, then, yeah, you don't need the Protector's Vow. But for the most part, like, it's a very good item to have, so just build it on him, and then eventually, if you get better items for him, once he is able to actually farm you infinite, you could swap the Protector's Vow over onto Swain. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to this comp. Well, that's not all there is. Like, you just have to do whatever you can to kind of get to the end game that I'm kind of talking about here. Next build up we have is going to be the Bruiser Ryze build. So fun to play. Holy cow. But it's very hard if you don't know what you're doing. So the main tricky part about this comp is unlocking everything. So Volibear unlock, Kennen unlock, Kabuko unlock, Ryze unlock. It's all really, really hard to do. So the way to unlock Kennen and Kabuko, those I think are the two hardest ones, is Kabuko, you need to field 6-star level in Bruisers, Yordles, or Invokers and be level 7. And then for Kennen, you need 8-star levels of Ionians, Yordles, or Defenders. So the best way to do that is to unlock Kennen first. And the way to unlock Kennen is have a Ionia opener. So what you can do is have like 2-star Shen, 2-star Jhin, then 1-star any other Ionia. It could be like Ahri, it could be Yasuo, it could even be Yunara. But that gets you 5 of the star levels that you need. After that, you're often playing like 2 defender front lines sometimes. So if one of them is 2-star, like let's say you have a 2-star Jarvan, you're at 7. And then you just need one other random unit, that's going to be 8. That's how you unlock Kennen. And worst case scenario, if you're ever on a PvE round and you need to unlock Kennen, you just play a lot of 1-star Yordles. You could play like 1-star Teemo, 1-star Lulu, plus like 1-star Shen, 1-star Jhin, like just so it adds up to 7, right? I think you need 1 2-star to make that possible if you're level 6. But in those cases, like, yeah, you have to do emergency fixes to unlock Kennen. But once you unlock Kennen, unlocking Kabuko is really, really easy because you're pretty much playing Shen in your end board. So he works for unlocking both of them. And then if you have 2-star Shen, 1-star Kennen, you already have 3 stars that you need for Kabuko. So if you have an item holder in the back, maybe it's like a Sona or Anivia, that gives you 2 stars. That gives you 3 stars if one of them's 2-starred, and then you pretty much have it already. If you're not playing Invoker in the back line, like you're playing other Bruisers for sure, right? So you have the Shen, 2-star, you have the Kennen, 1-star, so that's 3. You're playing a Sion and a Dr. Mundo, both 1-star. That's 5, and then you just play one random Yordle. It could be a Lulu, Teemo, I don't care, whatever you want. And then you get to 6, then you get Kabuko and Yuumi. I highly recommend if you're griefing your board to unlock something to only do it on the PvE rounds, but you also need to do it on the stage 2-7 or 3-7 rounds. Do not do it on the 4-7 round because in the 4-7 round you need to unlock Volibear or Set. And the way to do that is to unlock Set by soloing someone in the front line. I guess you could unlock the other stuff while you're doing that, but it's like a lot to think about. And then to unlock Volibear, sometimes you need to manipulate your board to play 6 Bruiser and like move items around on whoever you have to get to 3,800 health to unlock Volibear. What I like doing whenever I play this comp is take some of the augments that give you health. For example, if we look at like some of the prismatics, I know definitely do this. What's it called? Like Giant and Mighty or something like that. This one over here. Your team becomes large, gain 200 health and 10% max health. Bag of belts or whatever, or belt overload. Get 4 giant spells. Your giant spells grant 75 bonus health. Like you easily make that with just 1 Warmogs, but you could build 2, but it's generally gonna be 1 Warmogs plus like a Redemption or like a Starax or something like that. And then there definitely are other augments that give you health. I just forget what they are. But if you have one of them, it makes it a lot easier to unlock. It's not mandatory by any means. Like, I've definitely unlocked this with 4 Bruiser and just like a bunch of random health items that are not Warmogs. So let's say in the early game you have this, and then you have either 2-star Kabuko or Mundo, and then you also have Freljord out. So maybe you have Lissandra, Anivia, and like, I don't know, Sejuani. What you do is put 2-star Kabuko or Mundo in front of the Frozen Tower. The Frozen Tower gives them health. They get like 8% health. And then you just put random items on them that give them health. Like, obviously Warmogs is good, but I honestly don't build Warmogs a lot in this comp. I much prefer the other health items because they just provide a lot more utility to your team. For example, I really like Sunfire Cape in this build because Sunfire Cape gives health and it also gives percent max health. So you get the 150 from the base stats and then 8% max health. And then what you could do is combine that with Asterix. So Asterix is mandatory because it's Volibear's best items. That's again why I don't really find myself building Warmogs that often, because if I ever get a belt, the first one is going into Asterix, and if I ever get another one, I need anti-heal. So in order for me to build a Warmogs, I need 4 belts, which just doesn't happen that often. But once you have these 2 items, you could literally build like any tank item that gives health and you will reach the threshold with 4 Bruiser in. Like, worst case, like there are some random times where like, I don't know, one of these random items gives like 250 health instead of 300. Like, yeah, Steadfast 250, maybe you don't reach it. I think this one still reaches it. There are some weird combos. Like, I had a Sion stacked up and like I was missing it by a little bit. But if you have like a 300 health thing, like I didn't do a calculator or whatever, but like I've had a lot of games where I had something like this, Sterex, Spirit Visage for 300 health, and then Sunfire Cape with the Freljord Tower, with 4 Bruiser, and I was able to unlock Volibear, which needs 3,800 health. Mundo and Kabuko both do it. I don't know which one has more health, to be honest. I just use whoever I 2-starred first. So I just looked it up. Kabuko has 1710 at 2-star, and Mundo has 1620. So Kabuko technically does have more health. But you don't need Spirit Visage, because again, getting a lot of belts is hard, but stuff like Dragonclaw and Bramblevest also give percent max health. They both give 9%. This also reaches the threshold. So again, lots of different ways to do it. I've also done it with Braum 2-star. Sometimes I get that randomly. Sometimes I get like, obviously Wukong 2-star. Like, you don't need like any items to make that happen. I mean, you do need some items. You need like maybe 1 or 2 of these items, but you definitely don't need 3 if you have Wukong 2-star. Sometimes I get Taric with 3 items to get there at 2-star Taric. Like, you don't always need Mundo and Kabuko. It's just the most consistent to kind of use, but that's the way to unlock Volibear. But again, this whole thing is like a mini game. You just need to do your best to kind of unlock everything. But this is one sample positioning of this build. You can do one side. I've been doing center a bunch. The reason why I like the centered build is it just makes positioning or like getting countered in positioning a lot harder to do for other people. So that's kind of why I like doing it this way. Just make sure to leave a gap for your Volibear. Like, don't accidentally put Volibear here, because sometimes he has to walk all the way around. If he wants to go this way, like Sejuani does block it. So if you want to have Volibear go towards the right, you need to rotate your entire team or shift your entire team 1 square the other way, which is very tedious to do, but it is what it is. This way, he goes up there. Other things to take a note for when you are positioning is that Wukong likes being on the edge. That way you get his little passive proc, and he gets a lot of value off of that. For tank items, tank up either Wukong or Taric. Doesn't really matter who. Whoever's 2-starred, that's who you're going to pick. And then I like having Lissandra behind Sejuani. That way she gets like her little chilled damage bonus, but that's not that important because she's not really your carry. But sometimes if you get like a lot of AP items, you generally shift some of the utility items from Ryze over onto Lissandra, and then build like the full damage items onto Ryze. But generally you don't have enough items to go around for that, because you need 3 items for Volibear to stabilize with. You need 3 tank items. I guess you don't need 3 tank items, but you have 3 tank items from when you unlocked Volibear, so it is kind of difficult to have enough items for literally everyone on your team, because there's just a lot of stuff going around here. But yeah, this comp is really good once you can unlock everything and go level 9. So there's like 10 different requirements that I just listed. You need lots of items. You need Volibear unlocked. You need Kennen unlocked. You need Kabuko unlocked. You need Ryze unlocked. And you need to reach level 9 for all this to be possible. And like, you still prefer having 2-star legendaries instead of 1-stars. It's a lot going on there, right? So I'd say like only play this comp if you like know how to do the unlockable minigame. But once you do know how to do it, you can play this comp a lot. Other things you need to have for this is the ability to go level 9. So that means you need a lot of econ to make it work, or just have like a win streak start with AP. This is kind of like a good line to go if you have like a AP opener, but you don't really know what to do, because Lissandra, not that great. Well, I mean, she's fine, right? Like, you obviously use her as like a mid-game item holder, but like in super late game, like Ryze is pretty much the only super late game AP item holder right now. If we look at our tier list at the top, attack damage, rage blade, attack damage, attack damage, attack damage. Diana is AP, but she uses rage blade and melee items. Kaisa, she uses rage blade and jeweled gauntlet. I wouldn't really call that like typical AP. Typical AP is more so like mana item plus 2 AP items. And Kaisa is more of a Rage Blade user. Demacia, I mean, there's Lux, but like it's mainly like a Vayne and Lux comp. It's not like Lux solo carry. And then this is AD, and then finally we have the AP comp there. So obviously, like, not many AP options, so this is one of the ones out there, but you need a lot of things going for you. And if not, like, the comp won't work, because you legit can't play the comp unless you unlock everything. By the way, in the early game, some nice little things to do for item holders is using Anivia and then pairing her up with Zoe. Zoe gives a lot of chill effects, so it allows Anivia's ability to automatically crit. So that's a nice little thing to do if you do need a AP item holder combo in the early game. Like, I'd rather have Anivia plus Zoe than Anivia plus Sona, or like an Invoker. Again, the reason why is because it gives her ability the guaranteed chance to crit if they're chilled. So that's a nice little combo to have. For Volibear item holder, I generally only build the Sterix in the early game to kind of get the health total up. The rest of the Volibear items I kind of finish in late stage 4, early stage 5. So like in stage 5 Carousel, go for it. Stage 4-7 item anvil or component anvil, build a Volibear item. But until I have Volibear, I don't build his items apart from Sterix, because Sterix is a belt item, which is nice for health to unlock him. And then obviously it's his best in slot. But yeah, pretty complicated build there, but I promise you, once you play this like twice, you don't need that many reps on this. Once you play it like twice, you'll know how to unlock everything, and then you'll know how to do it on the PvE rounds. And then this comp becomes really, really good. It's also pretty stable on Lissandra 2-star. I know I was just trash talking her like a moment ago, but in stage 4, she's like perfectly fine. It's just everything beyond that where she starts to feel a little lackluster. For the rest of the comps, we have the B tiers like Draven, Yasuo, things like that. It is all on the website, bunnymuffins.lol/meta. Like, I'll show you. It's like down here, we have like a bunch of other comps and pretty much everything else that you need to know. But they're just a bit rare to play. Like, you're not going to be going for them every game. You won't see them in every game. Maybe you'll see them in like half your games, right? But you'll pretty much see all these comps like pretty often, no matter what rating you're at, just because they are just a lot stronger. Right now, everyone's kind of forcing the T-Hex build. I think it might be a little overplayed, but with that in mind, let's get into how I'm going to be approaching the patch. First, you do an opener check, see if you have Bilgewater or Ixtal, and if you do, go for them if you know what you're doing. I personally am going to be skipping out on this. I played them before to some success, but I've also played them to a lot of ace before also, because like I get quest blocked or whatever, and I'm too lazy to like do the baby cash out, you know, like you know me, like I play to have fun half the time, and if I'm doing an early cash out on Ixtal and then finding a new quest after that, like I know that's correct in a lot of cases, but I don't want to do that, you know, like that's kind of not why I play TFT. But if I am like super tryharding, then yeah, I will do that. But until that time comes, like my body's just not made for Ixtal, you know, like if I get screwed over on a quest, like I'm just gonna try to complete it anyways. And like that's literally the #1 rule I said not to do, like only pick quests you can complete. If not, you have to cash out. So you have to have good discipline to play these comps. For much easier comps to do for the opener check, Void is really good to play. If you get 2 Void plus a 2-star, Demacia, if you get any upgrades of Demacia early on, or if you get an early Vayne, play that. Draven, if you get an early Draven drop, play that. Or if you just win streak with AD items, play AD Fast 9. There are a couple of niche augments. I've seen the Viego augment do really, really well. I'd only take it if I had a 2-star Viego and then I got another 2-star Viego on top of that from the augment. But I'm sure it works with just like 1 or 2 extra copies. For reroll, like obviously Piltover, try to play this as much as you can, because again, if you don't do it, someone else will. And that's kind of this theme with reroll. Same with Tryndamere. If you don't do it, someone else will, and they'll be getting top 3 and you'll be getting not top 3, you know? So play these as often as you can if you do get reroll angles. If you get the opener checks, play these comps. And then if you don't know what you're doing and you're just kind of slammed items or whatever, if you built Rageblade, go Yunara. If you built a bunch of random stuff, Freljord has some way to make use of any item you build. If you got AP, maybe look into going for Bruiser Ryze. And then last but not least, if you are lose streaking, just go Diana. Diana's super duper 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 strong. Doesn't matter if you're lose streaking. In fact, it helps because your Bard gives you extra rerolls, and then you're able to win every fight in stage 4 and 5 pretty much for free. And then you cap out with Shurima, Azir plus Renekton. Renekton's an absolute monster in this late game. And then you're probably going to get second unless you knock everyone out before they find their final Exodia boards. But that's going to be it for me today. If you have any questions, let me know down in the comments below. Bunnymuffins.lol/meta for all your tier list needs. And then also teamfight.lol for all your TFT data needs. I'm going to be coming out with the unranked to diamond video in a couple of days, so definitely look out for that. And I'll go over a lot of the comps that we talked about. I'm probably going to do a variety. Like I'm going to do some like reroll. So I'm definitely going to do a Piltover game, 1-cost reroll, a 2-cost reroll of Tryndamere. There isn't really a good 3-cost right now, so I'm probably going to skip that. So we'll probably do some like 2 Fast 8 games, maybe like 1 Diana game, 1 Void game, and then 2 Fast 9 games. Maybe a Ryze game and 1 of something else. So that should be fun. So subscribe for that if you are not already, and I hope to see you all in the next video.